Okay, so when I was thinking about this, I've never actually recorded an introduction for this podcast. So, welcome to the Royalist King CJ podcast, where we talk about music of all kinds: pop, country, hip hop, trap, R&B, soul. Just overall, we're gonna take a deep dive into music, and just kind of see where we end up, and what conversations and what we can learn from the music that isn't so clear in the first listen. So, welcome to the Royalist King CJ Music Podcast, and I hope you enjoy. Okay, so let's talk about let's generalize this topic in a song that the Weeknd and Future decided to create. So I take this with certain liberties because I know that not everyone knows the Weeknd, but not everyone knows. Well, I would say not everyone knows Future, but if you don't, Future is an artist that roughly makes like club music, makes music like that in precise. So we're gonna have a short discussion about this, but let's see how they attack double fantasy. But I think in the name itself, it brings some awareness to what they're gonna talk about. However, let's just take a deeper dive and see what we can connect, what they're talking about, and just kind of see. I think this will probably be one of those explicit episodes, just because there probably will be stuff that I will have to say to kind of get the reference and things. I will try to word around so that I don't have to make it explicit, but I think it's gonna have to be, because there are some topics in here that aren't necessarily safe for children. So I guess we'll see, but double fantasy, and we'll be talking about it. But the song is Double Fantasy by Future, and the Weeknd and Future. Well, the Weeknd featuring Future. So we'll see. But I think overall this should be a decent song. I'm not entirely sure, but this probably won't have a message behind it like I think it will. So we'll see. But let's see if we have any spots. We'll get right into it. Okay, so we're gonna start with this kind of introduction that I think is staple to like a Weeknd verse. It's the C trumpet. It's a two beat for trumpet that comes in at the very beginning, and into the beginning we hear the Weeknd verse, and the Weeknd's verse, or his hook, or his chorus, his hook or his verse itself, it expresses a certain situation, because the verse starts off as the temperature is rising and you call somebody baby close, which to me, he says the temperature is rising close. He says there's no reason to hide it. I'm the only one that knows the side of you, which I think this, and I don't know necessarily how to relate to this or how to explain this without, we'll see. But the main point that I think that is trying to make is that when you try to express oneself, and when somebody knows you very well, they know your we'll call them dark secrets, or stuff that you eventually want to try with a person, almost like a crush, I guess would be the best way to justify it. So in that mindset of a crush, like you might daydream, fantasize, they roughly are the same thing with a few added details, but you kind of hear them talk about certain topics where he says that, and then you're thinking, the first thing you think of is, okay, so either this is like motivated by like the need of whatever this dark twisted fantasy is for this woman or this guy. The Weeknd, I think, strictly from what I think I know, is straight. So I don't want to offend anybody when I say it, but I'm not entirely sure heterosexual, but I'm not sure. So we can refer to that being that situation, which he then you could argue that, but I think again you can argue that that's someone's desire, because some fantasies come true, some people don't, and then it becomes a desire of a need that they want filled. So it's this line itself is weird, and I think it expresses it because it says that you don't hide it. I'm the only one that knows. I'm like, hey, you can feel safe around me because I'm the only one that knows the secret about you, which I think is sweet to some extent, but it's almost like you can use it to manipulate somebody, and I think that's my biggest issue with that line in particular. So we'll talk about that. He says, we should have never met, and I lie to you, even though I know it's wrong. Which I think this is where my mind goes, oh, this is manipulation. So you know that they have feelings for you, or have a desire for you in some way, and you know this, but because you want to feel your own desires, you're basically like, okay, I'm gonna lie to make this more than the situation is, or more than this friendship is, or more than the situation is. Just get the opportunity to sleep. We're gonna say to sleep or with somebody. But I think that's the thing. I think this song and the Weeknd is very strong when he picks his words, and so when he says it, I'm thinking, yeah, maybe the Weeknd's going through something because like the breakup phases, and I think that's why you get After Hours Don FM, and you get this from him collaborating with Future. You get this kind of, okay, we get you're going through something, tell us about it so we can understand it. And so that's roughly why I think that verse by the Weeknd could be considered manipulation, and I'm not entirely sure how somebody would feel about that. Which, I mean, this is the thing. I don't recommend lying, but I think there are like certain white lies that people tell each other about certain situations in order to further explain how they're feeling, right? Or to hide or make somebody secure or insecure. I think, people tell white lies all the time. But whatever this is, as it says, it's a double fantasy. So the double fantasy could be on both people's sides, and they're like, well, we're going to lie so I can get my fantasy from you and not the fantasy that you want, which you could argue is kind of selfish. And as that, we can get into this topic and talk for days. But however, Future says, and I think this is interesting, and I think this is why I think this song has like narcissist or manipulated tendencies. I think, and it's because Future says, if I leave and go to, if I leave to go to Mercury, you'll go with me, or and it's like I don't necessarily like I get it, like I get it when people say, hey, they're so in love that they will follow that towards the end of the moon, and I think that's what he was referring to. But I think it's what I know about Future's music to seem like this is kind of like, hey, this is kind of a bit toxic, I guess would be the word. But it's almost like, oh, we understand what you're doing. However, we don't think that it's terrible enough to I was like, I know my heavy wrapped around my finger, so I don't care what I do, whatever I do. I know you're coming with me because solely you have feelings for me, which I think is that double twisted, that manipulation that I'm seeing throughout the song. And so we argue that. But the next focus is on a woman's desire, which, I mean, the desire to be with somebody, which is strong. I think if you have feelings for somebody, the desire to be with somebody is strong. So therefore, you run into this issue of, how do I grab this person? The next thing he does is he has to be careful because he doesn't want to pay support, which we could argue, right? And so this is the thing. And I think he says he has to be careful so he doesn't pay support, which, I mean, we could truly argue that the reason Future is saying this is strictly because rappers these days have been well, I won't say rappers, I'll say people in general are paying child support for kids, and in some situations they turn out bad, where there are guys that are paying child support for 18 years and they're finding out that the child isn't theirs, and then you have this clashing culture where people like Nick Cannon, Future are having multiple kids, right? So multiple kids by different women, and we could argue that that's not biblical, or we could argue that that's not religious of any of these artists. However, we don't know what these artists' religions are, so they might not even be religious as well. They might not be religious, and so we're assuming a lot before we actually look into this, right? But it is at the same time, it's almost like he knows that, especially, I'll say this, Nick Cannon said that he spends enough time with all his kids, and I mean, we could argue he does and he doesn't. We could argue that Future just said it himself that he doesn't have to post stuff that he does because he does it. He does for his kids, right? So the thing is, and I think Future in the Drake situation brought the same thing back up, where Drake was, for lack of better words, he put hot sauce on a condom and killed sperm. Which, I mean, I get it. I think when you make a certain amount of money, people are like, well, there isn't a reason for certain things that were culturally accepted earlier years, right? But it is at the same time we have this thing where I think this thing of like child support to some extent is what men, guys, boys, some women worry about, right? And so you can hear people talking about this for hours and days where they go, well, that isn't right because it doesn't protect so right? But I think this is the thing, and it's weird because I'm not trying to push an agenda and I'm not trying to push anything on anybody, right? But it is to an extent where, like, you kind of have to be careful. Like, you just have to be careful. And I think that's what Future says in his line. You have to be careful. I just have to be careful. Which, yes, I think, you should be careful. But as I said, this first line that he uses is weird to me because he says, we sent you we sent you a letter basically in a stanza, right? And so it's weird. So you come through all of this and you're like, okay, so we know you tried to make somebody fall in love with you. Cool. That's okay. I guess that's common, right? And then we get into this next verse where he talks about, I know if I was to leave, you would follow me, which, okay, sure, that's manipulative. That might be a tad bit controlling. We get that. But then it's like, I had to be careful because I don't want to pay support, which we could argue is just because he wants to have a fun time. And I mean, I can't blame anybody for wanting to have fun. And since Cinco de Mayo is the day and it's passing, I mean, this song right here is something that I don't necessarily agree with the message. I get the message, and it's that, people are going to have dark fantasies, and fantasies plays on both people's emotions, and it's a two-sided thing. However, I'm not entirely sure if that message of, hey, well, we're going to do what we think is right because of X, Y, and Z is necessarily the right way to do it, right? Or the right way to look at a relationship or somebody that has feelings for you or has some attachment to you. I don't know if manipulating them or playing with their emotions or playing with their feelings or playing with that situation is safe, healthy, or being careful. And I think that's why this message is good. The message isn't good. The song, the beat is okay. The beat is great. I like the beat. However, I don't agree with the overall message of the song. And I think that's the biggest thing I'm having a problem with. It's not necessarily that I don't like the way that this is organized. I think the Weeknd in the future can make a great song. However, I think overall this song is more of, hey, we're going to show you how manipulative we are in a sense. And I think that might not be the best way to do it. I mean, granted, it's probably just a dance song. It's somebody's supposed to listen to when they're drunk or just partying. Like, it's probably supposed to be, you're not probably not supposed to think deep into it, and I'm thinking too much into it, and that happens a lot with a lot of these songs. But it is kind of concerning to me that this song is extremely, well, I won't say it's popular, but it released, and I'm like, it had the idea of being a good song. However, I don't know where, it's okay. The message, so overall, I give this song I hate to go under a 4. I hate to go under a 5, but I'll go a 4 out of 10, and that's kind of low for me, I think, over this past year. So right now, this is what you just kind of have to be, because I like The Weeknd. I do like The Weeknd. I like Future. I like them both separately. I just don't know if double fantasy was for me. I think that's the thing. Like, I don't think it was. Really don't think this was more for me. I think this was more for people that, aspire to be in those situations. And I technically don't, so I get it. It might not be for me. However, this is kind of makes a person wonder, what are the situations that led to this? So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe if they do another song or a remix of something, I might like it more. I just don't necessarily like the message behind this, and I don't like the overall song. I like the two people being. I like the collaboration, but I don't like the message behind it. I think that's where it is for me. Like the message of a song has a meaning to it, and so that it does fall kind of short for me there.